Hi, everyone. Are you excited as I am this evening? Want to welcome you this evening to day 2 of the National Art and Health Week Nigeria. It's been an amazing experience. It's the opening ceremony, which was yesterday. And today again, we want to welcome all of you to Nigeria, anyways, to the third edition of the National Art and Health Week. And very quickly this evening, we're having an incredible uh, roundtable global conversation on Hospital Mural Evaluation, which is led by the Jameel Arts Health Lab. And to lead us this evening is our incredible dear friend, Dr. Nisha, who is the co-founder and the co-director of the Jameel Arts Health Lab. Over to you, Dr. Nisha. Welcome this evening, everyone, once again.
Thank you so much, Kunle, and thank you so much, everyone who's been involved in organizing National Arts and Health Week Nigeria. It's a pleasure to kick off this presentation on behalf of our very full and robust team, who you'll get a chance to meet in a moment. We're proud to be able to bring to you an update from the Hospital Murals Evaluation. It's a project that was funded by the Alexander and Ilse Melamed Foundation, in conjunction, of course, with our Jameel Arts and Health Lab. The Jameel Arts and Health Lab, for those of you who are new to it, was established just last year in 2023. It's a collaboration between the World Health Organization, Regional Office for Europe, the Steinhardt School at New York University, Community Jameel, and Culture Runners. And our aim is really to measurably improve lives through the arts and to scale interventions for which there is good evidence. All of us understand intuitively to some extent that the arts can change lives. And the difference now is that we've been developing around the world methods of evaluating these outcomes and these impacts. And so today, we're here to share with you one project in which we are trying to deepen our understanding of the impact of one particular art practice in hospitals. Let's go to the next slide. The Jameel Arts and Health Jameel Arts and Health team is growing every day. There are 4 co-directors, myself, Christopher Bailey from WHO headquarters, who you heard from yesterday, I understand, as a keynote for the festival, and Niels Fichte from WHO Europe, Stephen Stapleton from Culture Runners. We have members of our JAW team here with us today, Tessa Brinza, our research coordinator, and Marcel Foster, research evaluation associate, who's the co-principal investigator for this project. And you can see a few members of our steering committee, including the esteemed Kunle Adewale. Next slide. There are a number of different focus areas that the lab is focused on. These are a few of them: arts and post-conflict, arts and non-communicable diseases, health equity, mental health, health and climate, neuroscience, health ethics. There are focus areas on arts and global population health, and others that are emerging. Today, we're focusing in on arts and hospitals. Next slide. So in this project, we're really asking, what can a hospital look like? And I suppose we could also ask, what can a hospital feel like or sound like? I think all of us have some idea of it, either from direct personal experience ourselves being in hospital or visiting somebody in hospital. So we might have an impression internally of what a hospital looks like already or feels like already. And I suppose this question is a bit aspirational. We're thinking about, well, what are the possibilities? If we think about hospitals as healing environments, then how can we aspire to truly make them healing environments? Next slide. And specifically, we're asking, what is the value of murals for patients, staff, and visitors? Next slide. We're really proud to be able to collaborate with colleagues from 4 sites around the world, from the Children's Hospitals of Ljubljana, Slovenia, from Hospital Rooms and Norwich University in the UK, from Lagos University Teaching Hospital in Nigeria, and from New York City Health and Hospitals in the US. And you're going to be meeting representatives from each of those sites as we proceed. We're very proud to have them on our collaborative research team. Next slide. I'm going to pass this over to collaborator and co-PI on this project, Marcel Foster.
Thanks, Dr. Nisha. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And a big thank you to Kunle and all of the folks who help support this amazing week of Arts and Health Nigeria. Um, so as goes with any kind of project, there's just so many folks who are on the slide and not even on this slide who have made this research possible. And so we'll be diving into exactly what we're doing. As a quick aside, and as Dr. Nisha already mentioned, I'm Marcel Foster, and I'm the co-principal investigator here for the Hospital Mural Evaluation. So what are our goals here? What are we really trying to do with a lofty title like Hospital Mural Evaluation? Really, our first goal is to better understand the effects that murals have in healthcare settings. As an evaluator, I'm always thinking about what's the impact? What's the impact? But we're first, there's not a lot of literature out there related to this question. And so medically and clinically, we have to first understand the existing documented effects that are out there in reports and in media related to the kinds of effects that are coming as a result of murals in hospital and healthcare settings. To do this, we are working with this incredible team of different sites around the globe, and you'll hear from them directly later in today's presentation. And as such, and as we're doing right now, building a global community of artists and health advocates. So it's not only about doing research with amazing leaders across 4 sites, but engaging with all of you today and continuing to build a community of practice, because obviously there are more sites than the 4 sites included in this initiative. And we want to make sure that we hear and better understand other sites around the globe. And really, last but not least, is to lay groundwork for future evaluation and research globally. I spoke earlier about you can't really understand an impact without first understanding an effect. And so, through the research and evaluation that we do, we'll make some first steps towards even more robust research that can be carried out in other sites and with other research institutions and evaluators. So what does this look like right now? Well, underway, we have a scoping review. We'll provide more details, have some hot off the press updates literally that were carried out just earlier today that we'll share later. We also have an evaluability assessment, a lot of vowels and consonants there, but effectively an evaluability assessment is a precursor to understanding how are we going to carry out an evaluation. And you guessed it, we'll have more on that later on in the presentation. And then all of these processes of the scoping review, as well as this assessment, will inform our protocol that we're building out across the 4 sites so that we can collect data among these sites to better understand the effects. So this will all lead to that data collection that I just mentioned across the 4 sites. We will be carrying out surveys, doing photo voice, arts-based methods, and of course, interviews with patients, visitors, clinical staff, and non-clinical staff to better understand these effects. As such, we'll be hosting future sessions just like this one to build a community and hear from folks who may not necessarily be part of these 4 sites. With this last goal listed here, we really want to learn from you today and in the future. And so we'll have an opportunity to address questions, provide insights today, and of course, via email and other future Zoom meetings. So without further ado, we do have some amazing guests that we've talked about, and we'll first kick off with, I will hand the microphone. We have with us today Anna Runefelt from the Nordic Art Initiative, as well as Dr. Mojca Kolnick from the Ljubljana Children's Hospital. I'll go ahead and just get us started with Anna Runefelt from the Nordic Art Initiative. And we can walk through some of these murals that she helped create and place in the Ljubljana Children's Hospital. So, and I also see that Dr. Marco is here. So my apologies for that oversight. So we'll also be hearing from Dr. Marco. So why don't I first hand the microphone, if you will, to Anna, who can talk a little bit about the history of this very mural that we're looking at now. Let's see. And Anna, you are on mute, the famous line of every Zoom call. Let's see. A few more moments. There we go.
Hear me now?
Loud
Thank
and clear.
you, Marcel. Yes, my name is Anna Runefelt. I'm the founder of Nordic Art Initiative. It's a Swedish non-profit organization. And I'm the project manager of Art with a Bigger Purpose, which was carried out at the University Children's Hospital in Ljubljana, Slovenia. And it was a beautiful project to work on, really. We had the opportunity to invite 4 different artists from 4 different countries to come to Slovenia for an artist residency program. And where we dressed the hospital's entrance, the photo that just passed. This is the waiting room, lower waiting room for outpatients. It's made by Ruth Hengeveld, artist from Netherlands. This is slightly cropped mural that was created in the courtyard of the hospital, which is facing the inpatient room, so children staying for longer periods in the hospital had the chance to see something colorful when looking out of the window rather than just a gray courtyard. It was created by a Hungarian artist called Adam Kish. And this is made by a Slovene artist, Črtomir Just, who made these beautiful illustrations that we printed and put on a light box for one of the corridors in the hospital. And yeah, it was a beautiful project to work on. As I said, what was very special with it was that we had the chance to really get to know the artists. We spent a week together where we visited the hospital. We met with the hospital director at the time and laid a foundation for a really nice collaboration. I think what made it possible was how inviting the hospital was and how happy they were to support us with all the sort of permits and everything that is needed to carry out works. Also, we were doing some filming and interacting with some of the patients, and we also had the chance to organize a really big opening event where we invited local school children and also the nursery children, local nursery children. So it was, yeah, a huge success, and it was a pleasure, really, to be working on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. And so we also have with us, as I mentioned, Doctors Mojca, as well as Dr. Marco Pokorn. And so feel free to take it away, either Mojca or Marco, and you can share a little bit more about the long-standing history of murals and art at the Ljubljana Children's Hospital. Let's see. And it looks like you are on mute, Mojca. There we go.
Yes. Hi. We're not allowed to unmute ourselves. So hi, everybody. I'm Mojca Kulnik, and I'm the site lead for HoME research at the University Children's Hospital. And our hospital is part of the University Medical Center Ljubljana. I'll just present the hospital very briefly. We're the largest pediatric hospital in Slovenia, and we serve a population of about 600,000 people as a secondary level institution, and about 2 million people as a tertiary quaternary hospital, which is actually on a national level. So besides offering healthcare to children from birth to 18 years old, we're also an education and research facility, and we collaborate with several faculties with our local university and also internationally. We operate all subspecialties divided into 12 departments, and we have emergency and admissions department, laboratory and imaging facilities. About 600 personnel take care of almost 60,000 outpatient visits and 12,000 hospitalized patients each year. And as Anna has already presented the murals that have been made in collaboration with her organization, I'd just like to add that besides these, we also have facade illustrations that I think are probably on the next slide. Yes, they were made by our famous illustrator, Jilka Reichman, who's illustrated many children's books that we grew up with, and also the parents of the children that come to our hospital nowadays have grown up with. And if you walk through our wards, you might just find yourself face to face to a painting of a cheeky monkey on the wall that you've just seen on the previous slide. If you can go back one slide, Marcel, that'd be great. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, we have this long-standing idea that art does make the space more welcoming for everybody who's coming through the doors of the hospital. But this research project is the first of its kind for our hospital, and we are very eager to learn what impact visual arts actually have on our patients, their parents, and also the employees. Both Marco, who's my boss, and the medical director of the hospital, and myself are medical doctors, researchers, and also practicing artists. And we're both very interested in finding new ways how to integrate art into healthcare. So thank you for the organizers, for inviting us to make this presentation. And we hope it opens doors to many more collaborations in the future.
Thank you so much, Moitza. And Dr. Marco, did you have any other remarks you wanted to share, or any other insights in addition to Moitza and Anna's wonderful remarks?
Well, I would just say a big thank you to for organizing this event, for involving us in this project. A big thanks to Anna for setting up the Nordic Art Initiative and providing the murals for our hospital. Thank you, Moitza, because she said it all. And we remain dedicated to, let's say, to all efforts in which art makes people's lives easier and nicer. So that's for me, that's all. And I hope that the project will be a successful one, and we'll try to do our best. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It's just truly an honor to hear from you today. Truly an honor to have you all here and to be collaborating with you. And looking forward to more collaborations ahead. So since we are on a limited time, we'll just move ahead. And also a big round of applause to the three of them for staying on track with the 10-minute window. Not something I can easily do, but now the pressure is on Monica Marino. So Monica joins us from the New York City Health and Hospitals. And she also works closely with Larissa Trinder and Ryan Patrick, as well as other colleagues. So I will let you take it away, Monica.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here with you all. And I and my colleagues here at New York City Health and Hospital are so thrilled to be part of National Arts and Health Week in Nigeria. So I am Monica Marino, and I am the Director of Programming at New York City Health and Hospitals. We are a public hospital system, the largest in the country. We have over 70 healthcare facilities within New York City. We work with over 1.1 million patients per year, and we serve anybody who comes to us, regardless of citizenship, ability to pay, identity, etc. Which is really amazing, particularly within the United States. And our mural program is built on the tradition of Depression-era murals from the 1930s, which were created at that time to create environments of healing and inspiration for both patients and staff. Our community mural program, which was launched in 2018, builds on this tradition, but includes the important element of community, so that our murals reflect the interests, desires, identities of the community members, which include staff, patients, their families, loved ones, and folks in the neighborhood. And here Marcel is going through a number of slides, and I actually love that we are on this one. So the community mural program, as I said, involves people from the community. So it starts with a group of stakeholders that include staff members that reflect the many different roles within a healthcare facility, as well as represent folks from different parts of the hierarchy, so that it's not about leadership. Yes, there are leaders on the team, in the group, but it's really about reflecting the full community. And so community members are also invited, patients when it's possible. When we are doing a mural in one of our nursing and residential homes, residents are always included, for example. So these folks come together with our selected mural artist to talk about what are the values of the facility. What do folks really, what are they proud of? What do they want to see on the walls? What do they think their colleagues and fellow community members want to see in that space? And this here is a ribbon cutting of one of our murals from this past summer. It's titled "We Are Kings," and the name of the hospital is Kings County Hospital in Flatbush, Brooklyn. And this is in a lobby of a in-residence behavioral health unit. And what the focus group members, many of whom are showed in this photo, wanted was a real sense and idea of care to be communicated. And so you see the hands, you see folks hugging. You also, what we can't see are different beads that show the different flags of the many Caribbean islands, because Kings County is located in a neighborhood where folks from the Caribbean are living, and really many are immigrants and really identify with their ancestry or their own cultural identity. And this is a celebration. So in addition to the focus group members coming together with the artist to create the design, it's a multi-step process. So the artist is always going back to the stakeholder group to say, okay, how does this look? I remember there were some images that, the focus group said, okay, no, we can include that. That might be triggering for some patients. And then we have a paint party, which is so fun. It's a super, super celebration. Everyone is welcome. We have usually 50 to 100 people who join to help paint the mural. The artist then takes it back to their studio to touch it up. It is then installed, and then we have the mural in its midst, in the midst of the facility. And the murals are really specific to each of the sites, so and where they're located. So, for example, if it's in a behavioral health unit or in a lobby. We're going to do something at the entrance of an addiction facility this summer. It really reflects the people that are going to be interacting and engaging with that mural on a daily basis or many times. So we're really excited to also share that we have thus far 36 murals that we have created since 2018, and we are working on an additional 6 this year, and are really excited to be part of this evaluation, this research project, to really learn how are these murals really affecting those who we want it to. How are they impacting those who we want to impact? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, and appreciate you talking through the paint parties and the community engagement. That's something we'll come back to, a little sneak peek into some of the findings that we've discovered thus far. But as we've said before, we are on a tight schedule, and we'll save questions for after folks present. So I will just go ahead and now introduce you to our amazing colleagues from the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, as well as the Art of Healing. And so with us today, we have Dr. Ashodi, and an amazing team of also Dr. Sodimu from the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and then the artist Moni Oloke, as well as Ebeson and Nengi. So I will ask the facilitator to please unmute Dr. Ashodi, Dr. Sodimu, and Moni Oloke, so we can hear more about the amazing work happening in Nigeria, and specifically Lagos.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Marcel, for the introduction. Thank you to the organizers of this event for inviting us, and of course to the HoME team for allowing us to be a part of this amazing project. I'm Yewande Oshodi. I'm a psychiatrist. I work in the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, and I'm the team lead for the project going on at our site. In the course of, our work, regular work, we decided to renovate our wards. And I don't know if they have pictures of our walls. I'll be happy if that can be shown. And when we renovated the walls of our ward, we realized that it was just plain and sad and hospitalish. And we felt we needed partners to help us paint it because of the cost. We couldn't afford to do it ourselves. To the right, the blue wall, you can see how that wall looks. And imagine a psychiatric patient coming in, even though we've just done up the walls, we've painted it, it looked really depressing. And we went far and wide looking for how to get murals and couldn't afford it. Then came the group TAO, the Art of Healing. And they offered to partner with us in putting up murals on our walls. And little did we know that beyond just beautifying the walls, we were actually going to end up enhancing the therapeutic milieu of the hospital ward, the inpatient service. And when that was done, it not only helped make the environment better, it also helped the staff feel happier coming to the workspace. And indeed, when relatives had to bring in their patients, we saw a different reception to the offer of admission. Mark you, we work in an environment where there's a lot of stigma and discrimination, and little understanding about mental health services. So the previous speaker also spoke about behavioral services where you've used art, but we have an added layer of increased stigma where people do not even want to come to the wards. So following this artwork of the murals, please, you can show us a few more walls. Following the installation of the murals on our walls, we realized that the stigma did reduce. This is another before and after. The staff felt better, and we began to see that maybe we can actually do a lot more. So we're in the process of really doing a few things around that. I'm going to allow Dr. Shodimu, who is, you know, the co-PI on the project, to say a few things. Before I go, I want to remind us that we work in a teaching hospital, a major referral center in Nigeria, where there's so many wards, and murals do exist, but psych has never been a place anyone thinks about. We're usually the last thought of, we're usually the last catered for. So we bring into this project an angle of the impact of art in a space where there's huge neglect and discrimination, and the patients hitherto have not experienced the pleasure, the ambience that comes with art. And this has really helped us to bring that on. I'd like to hand over to Dr. Kenny Shodimu to take it on from here. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nigerian National Arts, for having us. Thank you for the music presentations that we listened to and watched. Hello, everyone. So my name is Kehinde Shodimu. I'm a psychiatrist too at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. So this is this picture, the mural, we can see the before and after. It's actually helped my emotional well-being too. So I could just quickly give you like a picture of this is the entrance of our ward. So if you look at the before, we enter, and then the before picture, that was what we come into, and then see the wow, the vibrant color, the welcoming. I'll put it that way. Now I'm always so proud of coming to the ward. And our staff too, they're always, everybody's excited. It's as if for once we are on the same level with the other wards around, and we feel less stigmatized. Talking about the patient, I'll talk more about the patient, how they feel too. I'll just use a case scenario of a young girl. So she didn't want to come for admission, but she had suicidal thoughts, and that was part of the requirement, one major requirement. So we had to keep her so we could monitor her. But the first thing she said was, Dr. Shodimu, I don't want to come to your ward. I can't imagine how it looks like. And I was smiling. She just come and try. She listened, and then she came, and then afterwards she saw me, and she could see the excitement. Oh, she said she loved the workshops they have monthly there. She liked the paintings on the wall. She felt encouraged and stimulated, So, and not only her, we've had other people too. So aside from the just getting this feedback, we just went a step ahead to try to get a scientific evidence too. So presently we are looking at the effect of the heart engaging on the overall sense of well-being. We've gotten approval. We just want to see how that is. However, we are excited to be part of the HoME study, because that is a big study, because it would also help to assess and reveal other areas that heart could help our patients. Thank you so much. So I'll hand over to Moni now. She's from the Heart of Healing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shodimu. Hello, everyone. My name is Muni, and I'm the project coordinator at the Art of Healing. And so the Art of Healing, I'll do a very quick and brief background on who we are. So the Art of Healing was founded by artist Nengi Omuku, and she was inspired actually by the Hospital Rooms project in the UK, in England. And so a few years ago, she had worked with the hospital rooms as an artist who worked creating a mural for them. And she was very inspired about the impact of the work that they were doing, and basically got their blessing and their support to bring that sort of program here to Lagos, Nigeria. And the first place you could think about was Luth, just because of the impact on the work that they do, especially in the psychiatry department with Dr. Oshodi and Dr. Shodimu, who have been very generous in their guidance and their support for us. And they welcomed us into the award and gave us all the support that we needed to do the work that we need. And so far, we've created 5 murals in the ward. And as Dr. Shodimu mentioned, we've gone further to actually hold monthly workshops. Every month, we go to the ward and interact with the service providers there. And what we do is we bring in an artist, a different artist every month who leads the workshop. And basically what they do is they just work with the service providers with each artist has a different expertise. Either they're painters, sometimes we have poets, we have musicians, artists who are multidisciplinary. And so we don't limit ourselves to only one kind of artist. And for example, one of our recent sessions had an artist who is a painter, but it also evolved into like a dance music session because he also DJs, he also makes music. And so our sessions are very loose in the sense that it can go anywhere. We just want to engage as much as possible with the service providers and make them feel comfortable and make them understand that there's a sense of escapism, a sense of calm, a sense of peace to be found within the arts. And because of course, that our founder is an artist herself, and so we're able to leverage on the power of arts, obviously with also working with artists. I also work in the arts outside of my work with Tao. And so that helps us to connect and bring in so many artists who, once they come and experience the workshops, they always want to do more. They always ask if they can come back, what they can do to support. We've had several volunteers, even because at some point we're looking for artists, but now we actually get artists who volunteer to come on board for our workshop sessions every month. And for the murals, we've collaborated with both local and international artists. And our approach to creating murals involves working really closely with the artists to help bring their visions to life. And if you look at some of the images that they've shown, most of them were done by local artists. And so that's also quite important to us because our artists here are very talented and they're very supportive as well of the mission that we are, of the work we're doing at Luth. And so actually now we're moving to what we like to call the phase 2 part of our work, where we're expanding the murals into other parts of the ward. And so we're working with Dr. Shodimu and Dr. Oshodi, as well as with the artists, to make sure that we select and install the best murals for the service providers, murals that, like Dr. Shodimu mentioned, uplifts, calms, welcomes, and that has the best effects on not just the service providers, but the staff as well who work in the hospitals. And so this is who we are in a nutshell. I don't want to take too much of your time and what we've been working on. And it has been such a privilege to continue our partnership with our hospital collaborators, Luth, and we anticipate more projects in the future and just expanding the work we do with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moni. Thank you, Dr. Shodimu and Dr. Shodi, for your wonderful insights. I especially always love hearing, and I'm always inspired by the insights you have around how you find that the murals specifically address experiences of stigma. And I think that's so important. And I think that that work related to stigma in psychiatric and mental health wards is so important, and even beyond that, and really excited to see where this research leads. And so last but certainly not least, we have today a focus on hospital rooms and Norwich University of the Arts. And with us from Norwich University of the Arts are Nicola Simpson and Simon Wilmoth, and then hospital rooms as well. And we're very lucky that we have one of the co-founders and directors of Hospital Rooms with us today, Neve White. So if we, facilitator, if you could please unmute Neve White, and would be very interested, especially in hearing from Neve, related to the story of Hospital Rooms, as well as a shared mission to use murals to address stigma that it experiences. Neve, would love to hear more from you.
Thank you so much, Marcel. It's such a privilege to be here today. And we're so proud to be part of this project. As you mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of Hospital Rooms. We've been going for about 8 years now. And the idea came about because a friend of ours was sectioned under the Mental Health Act here in the UK, and she was required to go into an inpatient mental health ward. And on visiting her, we realised that the environment that she was expected to recover in, to find hope in, to kind of look forward to the future, was completely dilapidated, beige, run down, clinical, and really harsh. And it was the opposite of what we hoped for a loved one at that time, at such a difficult time. Our background was in the arts. I'm a curator and Tim's an artist. And we really saw an opportunity to be able to bring artists and thinkers and creatives into this space to work with the community of patients, the community of staff, and to radically re-envision what a mental health space could be and what it could offer us. First of all, hospitals kind of said to us, no way, that's impossible. You can't do this in mental health space. It's too difficult, too challenging. And we really persevered to convince people that we could do this safely, that the community of patients would be able to participate and contribute in a meaningful way, and that we could come up with ways to provide space for people that was imaginative, that gave them an ability to contribute and to be creative, and to maintain that during this very difficult time of treatment. You're seeing some of the installations that we have commissioned since that time. We first of all focused very closely on individual inpatient wards. We worked in forensic services that have also contact with the criminal justice system. We worked in psychiatric intensive care wards, wards for children, wards for older people, and we really learned a lot of nuance around how we work and how we deliver projects and how we encourage health providers to be brave, to have courage to try something different. And evaluation has been a really core part of that. It's always meant a lot to us, learning all the time and adapting our practice. But being part of this program is actually going to elevate that even more. We now have a curatorial methodology that we follow, including a research and development phase where we really learn about the community that we're going to work with, a season of creativity phase where we're running co-production workshops with artists and patients coming up and conceiving of these artworks, the installation phase where we're often trying to get the community involved as well, and then that public engagement piece where we're really shouting about this work to the wider public, both nationally and internationally. And we really hope to make a real step change in what we can expect from both the entrances, the thresholds, the waiting areas, and those places where we are cared for. So this is a really exciting project for us. And like I say, we're so proud to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Neve. And so very happy that you could join us. Just wanted to make sure we also included some of these in the process of making, and very exciting to hear about your community focus, that we also heard from some of our other presenters today. We had mentioned too that there was a collaboration with Norwich University of the Arts, and what you're looking at here is a project where they had worked with patients to not only perceive and look at this visual art and experience the mural in this setting, in an inpatient setting, but also have an opportunity. You're looking at visual art that was created by the patients, and something that Nicholas Simpson talks quite a bit about, which is that especially using arts-based methods allows us to better understand embodiment, that how does looking and experiencing the art in a healthcare setting, how does it impact you physically, and how can you express that artistically? And that these arts-based methods provide us with data and information that we may not be able to get so accurately, say, with a survey or an interview. So just a few other quick images to share. So that we do have some updates, but with about 40 minutes left, I think before maybe we can come back at 1:15 and share out some updates, but I can stop sharing my screen for just a moment and allow Niels Fietje, who's one of the co-directors of the Jameel Arts and Health Lab, to help facilitate a question and answer session for our amazing panelists that we have today. So I think Kunle, if we can get ready to unmute a number of folks, Niels can help maybe field some questions that he has for any one of our presenters, and then field some questions from all of you. I can also play a role in helping to field some questions in the chat here. So Niels, how are you doing today or this evening?
I'm very well, thanks, Marcel. That's always a nice question to kick off with. Thanks so much for all of our panelists' presentations. Although I'm part of this project, I kind of find out something new every time I hear about it. So it was wonderful to see the slides, the images, and hear everybody talk about the different processes that they go through in putting together the murals and integrating them into the care settings. So yeah, we have a good amount of time now to field some questions from the virtual room. So I'd encourage you all to raise your hands if you've got questions. And I would also encourage you, if you want, to please feel free. If you prefer, you can either raise your hands or you can ask questions in the chat. And I can see we already have a hand up from Marion. So I'll go to you in a second. But just to remind you, please, if you don't know where the hand raising function is, it's in the reactions icon on the bottom of your screen, and you can find the hand raising icon there. So I do have a couple questions myself, but I will restrain myself for now, given that Marion has already raised her hand, and I'll hand over to you, Marion, for your question.
Hello, and hello all. I'm curious about how the evaluation findings can influence health policy in terms of creating better environments in hospitals, given that I'm from the UK and I've worked with Marcel before, and our current challenges are the cuts in funding to everything that's not seen as clinical. So in summary, how can we use these findings to help us ensure that funding goes to more of this?
I kind of feel like, thanks very much, Marion. I kind of feel like maybe I should have a go at answering that question, even though I wasn't one of the presenters, and I realized I might not have introduced myself properly either. So my name is Niels Fietje. I am a co-founder of the Jameel Arts and Health Lab, but I'm also a technical officer at the WHO, where I'm based at the WHO Regional Office for Europe in Copenhagen. And so this question around policy is, I think, a very important one, and one that we ask ourselves all the time. I think policy considerations, policy discussions always have two really fundamental components to them. One of them is the evidence base, making sure that we have an evidence base for the recommendations we make. And this is really one of the key elements that this intervention is trying to, or rather this evaluation is one of the key gaps that this evaluation is trying to fill. Now, I think in the general space of visual arts and their impact on health and well-being, there is actually quite a lot of evidence. We published a report in 2019 on the evidence base broadly around arts and health, and this was definitely an important component of it. So in fact, the evidence base generally about the impact of visual arts on health is in a good state. What we don't have kind of concrete evidence for, and for which there isn't yet a huge amount of concrete evidence, is in this particular space of murals, hospital murals, and their effect on patients and carers. And maybe Marcel can say something about that in a moment, because in fact, I think you are conducting a kind of scoping review on this, and maybe you can say a couple of words on it. But so this is kind of plugging a very important gap, and we hope to be able to use this and some of the other work from Marcel's scoping review to bolster the case for the evidence base. But fundamentally, I think where the point that we want to reach is to collect that data and to make both the effectiveness case, but also hopefully the health economic case for why these kinds of investments are worthwhile. And typically the form that this would take is a policy brief. So we've published policy briefs in the past that make recommendations or considerations to member states, to policymakers, but also to healthcare professionals, managers of hospitals, for instance, in which we break down the evidence base and the case for cost effectiveness. Now, of course, that's no guarantee that these kinds of recommendations or considerations will be taken up, but they do provide munition for people working in this space or interested in the space, who are proponents of the space, to say, look, WHO has conducted a scoping review, has conducted evaluations itself, has done a cost effectiveness analysis, and has published a policy paper, and there is good evidence to say that this type of intervention works and has benefits. But Marcel, do you maybe want to say a word or two about the scoping review?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief, and then also pass it to Dr. Nisha. But as mentioned, we did a scoping review, and working with an amazing librarians from the University of Florida's Center for Arts and Medicine. We mapped out, okay, how can we identify publications that explicitly talk about the process of better understanding the effects of viewing visual art among visitors, patients, and staff. So asking that specific question, it yielded 10,000 different titles. And so a big round of applause to all of our reviewers, but one who's here, Olayatan Komalafe, for all of her hard work. We're now through 8,000 of those 10,000, and we've identified 40 peer-reviewed articles. And we also are doing gray literature or non-peer-reviewed publications. A quick shout out, if you have a report on the effects of visual art in a healthcare setting, please email it my way. I'll share my email in just a moment, and we'll make sure to include that in our scoping review. All that information, 10,000 titles, 40 peer-reviewed publications. What's really interesting is we found that there are 5 publications in particular that have leveraged existing validated scales to look at the effects of visual art in public health settings on staff as well as patients. And so it's been really interesting to see the Hearth Hope scale, as well as one related to stress reduction, anxiety, as well as workplace aesthetics. So more soon, once we have this submitted, and in a moment, we'll too share the protocol that we have public for the scoping review. But anything else to add to that, Dr. Nisha, especially related to Marion Lynch's great question on policy?
No, on the question of policy, I would just, lift up what's already been said, which is that, if we discover that what we intuitively understand to be a low cost, non-invasive, good practice to employ in hospitals, which is already happening, obviously, as you can see, even without the evidence, right? It's happening. And I know I see Fatin on the call, I see others on the call, Elizabeth on the call, where you understand already the value of including visual arts in these spaces. Now we are testing that further. But if we, if what we find, upholds or reaffirms those intuitions, those assumptions, then why wouldn't we encourage the widespread practice? This isn't a widespread practice. And so our hopes would be to lift it up in such a way where other arts administrators, health administrators, decision makers, private investment can start to see this as being of value, both in the private and the public sphere. I'll just add that, with regards to the scoping review, you heard Marcel speak to the focused on viewing visual art in hospitals. And, so many of these projects, in fact, all 4 of them have also spoken to the process by which these murals are created. And undoubtedly, these articles will also reflect that to some extent. And that's a question that's been posed even in our small community of practice with our 4 sites and with our core research team. And so for those of you who are thinking about that, how do we acknowledge the process, the community-based process by which this sort of work appears? I know that it'll be present in the research. It cannot not be, because it's been really raised up time and time again as a critical component to why people believe these murals are effective. Over.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Nisha. We have a question in the chat from Melissa, and Melissa, I think I can read your question, but I think I won't do it justice, because it feels like you have quite a bit to say. So if it's okay, would you like to ask your question as a speaker? Is that something that you're okay to do? So I think Melissa's saying that she can't unmute herself. So I think we'll need to, Kunle, if you could do that. There we are. Okay, great.
Yeah, so we're planning a new inpatient hospital right now at MSK in New York, and I manage the arts program there. And for the first time, we have an environmental graphics team who also will be doing our signage. And so in the past, we put murals at entryways or places that really need some wayfinding assistance. But now that we have this team, in addition to, we'll have an art consultant who will provide regular artwork, which we also do. We're just trying to think about the balance of these 2 elements. And, if you have a mural on one wall and you have artwork perhaps across the hall or in another location, like, what is the dialogue between those 2 forms of art? And should they be coming from the same place? Should they be different? I like the idea of a community-based. We have stakeholders who often kind of contribute to what art we're selecting. So I like, involving the idea of involving stakeholders in these murals as well. But I'm just wondering if in your research you've drawn any distinctions between the 2 that would guide us to sort of think about locations and quantities and dialogue between these 2 types of art.
Perfect. That's a great question, Melissa. And I guess implicit in that, there's also the question, is there a point at which one can oversaturate a space with art? So maybe we can reflect on that a little bit as well. And then the flip side, is there also an opportunity to integrate art not just in the kind of in a big way, on a mural way, but in little ways, in wayfinding, in room names, and I don't know, like in little parts within the hospital. But before we go there, or maybe our panelists also want to reflect on those questions as we get to them, perhaps I can ask 2 of our panelists in particular to respond to this. So I think we heard from our colleagues in the US, from Monica in particular, a little bit about the process, and maybe you can reflect on that a little bit more in relation to Melissa's question, and then also from Neve. I also feel like you were kind of describing a little bit the process about how you've clearly thought about this quite a bit, and you have different stages. Maybe you can say a little bit more about those aspects in relation to Melissa's question. So maybe we start with Monica and then over to Neve.
Yeah, so we also have an art collection that of works of original works of art that we place throughout the system. The murals are really what the location of the murals are determined within each facility. So, where they think they need it the most in terms of like welcoming folks or, somebody that I have been speaking with recently, shared that her hallway was, just super kind of like the Shining hallway, and really wanted something to liven it up and feel warm and caring. So I think it's both like spaces that really need it because of environmental reasons, but that's always connected to the people who are going to experience it. And the way that we balance that with artwork is thinking about like the scale of the space and how within that particular space, is it something, can we use an artwork that is not necessarily, created by the community members, or is it more important to have a work of art created by community members? And even if it's one of the artworks from our collection, we also co-curate those with staff members who then reflect also the interests of the patients. And often they reflect the identities of the people who are going to that particular facility, or the, particular needs of that type of space, whether it's behavioral health or an ICU, and the waiting room of an emergency department, etc. I hope that helped.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying like, you're still supporting the same goal, but it may depend on the type of space and the need of the space.
Yeah.
So the subject matter may not be all that different, or the people creating the art may not be different, but the locations could be the driver.
Thanks very much, Monica. Neve, do you want to add to that from your perspective at hospital rooms? Oh, I think we'll need to unmute you, or in case, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So the locations of our artworks are determined during our research and development phase of our projects. So we would have a number of different methodologies that we use to work with the community about where we're going to have the most impact. So that might look like a visual matrix session, which is kind of like a creative focus group. We have creative art workshops where we discuss particular spaces and the way that we interact and encounter them. We also have mapping sessions where we might literally walk through a space and understand a little bit more about how they're used and what people would like from them. And then we speak with our curatorial team and our artists about where we think we can have the most impact. And then that's all put together as part of our kind of artist proposal document. And we think very, very carefully about the different kinds of impacts that we might have. So within a mental health ward, we might have very high stress areas, for example, de-escalation rooms or seclusion rooms, or 136 suites where people will be when they're very, very agitated and upset. So that will be approached in a very different way from a general lounge room or an activity room or a quiet room. So we're really thinking about function and architectural space, as well as the ways that we intervene with them with artworks. And that our artist selection comes into play in that as well, because we know where the artworks are going to be, in what demands are going to be made of them, and we know what kind of function they may have as well, and how an artist might interact with all of those different challenges.
Thanks very much, Niamh. So I hope that was useful, Melissa. But I think the question that you ask is also, I mean, it's relevant, obviously, to all of the teams that are part of this project. And I think I'm right in saying that the evaluability assessment really highlighted as one of the core elements of these projects, the kind of co-creative nature of producing murals, and that is, you know, a fundamentally important element of their effectiveness as well. So they obviously have a life after they've been created, but they have a very important life while they're being created. And so I'm wondering whether we can hear a little bit more from our Slovenia team and also our Nigeria team on exactly that question. Maybe I can ask, because I do have to pick somebody so that we can unmute you. Maybe I can ask Moni to kick us off there from the Nigeria team and say a little bit more about the process of selecting and choosing and creating art in the hospital in Nigeria. And then I'll probably ask the same of our Slovenia team, and maybe ask Anna and Mojca to comment on that as well. So, Moni, would you be able to say a few words more about that?
Sure. So for us, our process is very organic, and because we work obviously for now with one hospital, which is the Luth, and so we work with the staff at Luth. And also, like, I think, wasn't someone mentioned, we do like a walkthrough of the space to see kind of what the space needs, and we kind of also look at what with the service users, what they need as well with the space. So for example, in the ward at Luth, there's the wards, and then they have like a recreational room. And so in the recreational room, we don't necessarily have murals, we actually have artworks. They're not framed artworks, but they're artworks, and then there's like a base color on one of the walls. And so because we found that for the recreational room, that needed something maybe a bit more interesting, a bit more toned down in the ways that was different, because that's where they spend a lot of their time when they're not in their rooms. And so we wanted to do something different in that space versus in the wards, where we then had like the traditional murals that were there. And so we just look at the utility of a space, one, where most of the service users spend most of their time, you know, and what they do when they're in those spaces when they're spending their times. And so when we kind of look at that, and then we also work with the artists and say, we give them blueprints, because some of the times we work with international artists, like I said, who are not able to be in the space physically. And so then how do we make them understand the space without being there physically? How do we help them to understand, you know, how their artwork is going to be translated in the space? And so we give them blueprints, we do photographs, we do architectural blueprints and 3D images and give it to them. And so then they are able to kind of transpose themselves in those spaces and create designs. And then once that happens, then we also go back to the hospital, to the staff. We work with Dr. Oshodi, we work with Dr. Shodime and say, these are the designs. Then from a mental health expert's opinion, what do you think of these designs? And then they give us feedback, they give us guidance on what they think will work, because they are the experts, they are the mental health experts, and they know the kind of designs that they think will help, you know, the service users thrive, and also the staff who work there and everyone who comes through that space. And so then it's really a collaborative effort between the artists, between TAU staff, and between the hospital staff. It's very collaborative in that sense for us.
Thanks very much, Moni. And I think it's worth keeping in mind, or it's worth drawing attention to the fact that, as you say, that different realities require different solutions. So, as in your case, the funding might not simply not be there to have a process that is maybe as in depth and as detailed as in other locations. It might require volunteer artists. It might require people who are not on site, and as a consequence, you have to kind of adapt protocols or adapt things in order to achieve the outcomes that you're aiming for.
Exactly.
I'm just going to hand over to maybe Anna first to also reflect a little bit on this from the Slovenian perspective. You gave us a really nice insight as to the artworks in the hospitals, also the murals in the hospitals. But I'm hopeful that maybe you can say a little bit more about the actual projects, so the getting there itself. But I can see that Anna might not be on the call anymore. So maybe I'll go over to Mojca in the first instance. Maybe you can say a little bit about that process instead. And I think we'll have to unmute Mojca if we can.
Yes, hi. I'm afraid I really actually cannot comment because I wasn't there in when the project was in the making, and don't know so many details about it, actually, about the whole process of choosing the artists and how the murals came about. So I sent Anna a message.
Fair enough. I think I received a message in the chat or we all received one to say that Anna had to attend to a 4-year-old. It is getting rather late in
Europe, yeah.
In Europe, exactly. Marcel, you have your hand up, so maybe you would like to comment on this.
Well, yeah, a quick question for Mojca is, I think in having chatted with you briefly, curious to just hear your thoughts about, community engagement and murals and, for future murals and visual art that is included in the hospital, what kinds of processes do you hope will occur? I know we've chatted briefly about this before, so just curious to hear any additional thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I think in Slovenia as a society, we're not very used to including the community into reforming public spaces, or usually even when a new building is being made, right, or a new hospital building or a renovation project is planned. There are different solutions that are proposed, and the general public is invited to make comments, but actually we don't have the habit of organizing events around this or really engaging with the public, right? Like actively going out to the public, bringing them in and saying, okay, what do you think? Does this represent you? Does this serve the purpose? Does this, how do you feel about this? And what do you think could be done? And I think in this area, we still have much room for improvement. And I'm really keen on researching this and how we can actually better engage all the stakeholders, which is something I've been hearing from other sides, right? But we actually don't have that much history of doing this, actually, as far as I'm aware.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mojca. I think we've got time for maybe one more question that we can explore before I'm going to hand back to Marcel for the research update that I think you're going to provide us. So I'm just going to have a little pregnant pause here, wait for a moment in case any hands shoot up. I'd be happy to yield the floor. Otherwise, I'll take the kind of chair's prerogative and ask a final question. I have been trying to scan the chat while moderating, and I don't think I have seen any other questions. There's lots of great comments in there, and lots of hearts, which is always good, and other positive reactions. But I don't think I've missed any further. Oh no, there does seem to be one from Yinka. And another question from Marco. Okay, so we've got two questions. Maybe I can hand over to you, Marco, to ask your question, and then I can ask Yinka's question as well. Marco, over to you.
Well, thank you. I was just a brief comment. I'm not actually, let's say, much into visual arts. I like that, but I'm not into, let's say, creating. But I know something about, let's say, music as a treatment option. And I know that also research has shown that not all music has beneficial health effects. And actually, I presume that the same applies to visual arts. And I think that maybe not every art works in every environment. So basically, maybe adding to what Moitza has said, neither of us was at the Children's Hospital when Anna created those murals, but I'm aware that, let's say, for all the murals that are on the facade of our hospital, these are, let's say, this is a work that has been created by, a renowned artist in Slovenia who's won numerous prizes, numerous accolades, and basically has become, let's say, cultural heritage of our nation. So basically, this artwork has proven to work in, let's say, before it was put on display in our hospital. And I think that basically, you have to develop certain criteria and in each specific environment of what, let's say, what will work, because these murals will be there for a long period of time, and they have to have a positive effect on both the patients and the staff. So that's my thought, and I will end.
Thank you very much, Marco. I think that's a very interesting point that you're raising, which is basically while we're obviously promoting the idea of co-creation and the importance of civil society contributing to these processes, there's also the reflection that the artists themselves, over the kind of course of their artistic career, particularly where they are an artist that is, has a reputation for representing a group of people, who is successful in their work, who is prized in their work, that they have gotten to this point because they are capable of expressing feelings, emotions, sentiments, thoughts of their people that are relevant, and maybe that's one of the things that is unique about high quality artists that are able to do that. Marco, did you just raise your? Did I see that you raised your hand again? Yes,
I just wanted to add. In medicine, we usually use medicine that work. That has a proven record of being effective and has, let's say, has passed all the studies and all the certifications, and basically in art it should be the same.
Thank you. Or maybe one could say it could be the same, because I imagine there are important things to interrogate there. We are running out of time, and we're getting some hands up, and I do want to take those hands. So before well, I'll go to our colleague Foluyimi. If I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, I'll go to you first, and then I'll also ask the question that's been highlighted in the chat. Is it Foluyimi? Am I getting that more or less right?
Oh, it's Folajimi.
Folajimi.
So you could call me Jimmy, you could call me Fola. You could split it in the middle and choose either one, Niels.
Perfect. Well, Folajimi, I'm going to hand the floor to you to ask your question. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a medical doctor and I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and I currently work in the public health space. And I want to look at the fact that these murals should focus a lot at telling a story. And by telling that story, we can easily communicate with the people on bed and people that are coming to visit. And from that means we can find a way of making this thing go viral. And also, if possible, can we find a way? I don't know much about drawing. I do more video. Is there a way where from time to time one can have a commitment where the story changes and you have a mural on the wall? It could stay there for 3 months and then we come with another story. And at the same time, could these things pose as some form of way to be platform to promote health promotion, to tell a health story and pass, critical information to people in a very good way where, storytelling is really engaged? I think we should have beautiful art, but it should be easily translatable into good stories for people.
There's some really excellent questions in there for the Jimmy. That's about the nature of the changeability of the images, but also the kind of health promotion effects of the images. I wonder if I can have some comments from our colleagues in Nigeria, Dr. Oshodi or Dr. Shodimu. Have you put any thought into I know you've just created these artworks, but is there any thought about updating, changing, or maybe even having other mediums in those spaces? Can we unmute Dr. Shodimo and Dr. Oshodi if they're still on the call? Dr. Oshodi,
Thank
yes,
you.
I think you're unmuted. There you go.
Okay, I was struggling. All right, thank you very much. I think it's a great suggestion. However, in resource challenge settings, like maybe some parts of the world where some of us come from, these murals themselves cost a lot of money. We don't even have the funding to install them ourselves. So we're heavily reliant on the donors that come to do the artwork. So to then scrape it off and then put a new one, as amazing or as potentially impactful as that may be, it may not be a sustainable option. But maybe what I'll take from the comment of Lajmi is maybe on some of the walls that the murals are being installed, one could think around having some narrative, reflected on some walls. Of course, they need to be space tailored to the space in question. For example, on wards like ours, where you need to be very, very intentional about what we put up, because we don't want to trigger the patients, we don't want to generate psychopathology or, contribute to it in any way. So that will require a bit more thought than maybe some other regions of the hospital. So those would be my immediate thoughts on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Shodimo, did you want to add anything to that? I think we'll have to unmute you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think Dr. Shodi has highlighted some things here. Thank you for that, Jimmy. And I agree that that's what noted. But if you go back to the story, we painted a picture of everywhere else in our hospital was people were coming to help, putting murals, and then no one was coming to psychiatric ward. No one. In this part of the world, people also have the belief that when they even help patients with mental health, they themselves could get stigmatized. So the Heart of Healing, and before now, when we talk with Marcel, myself, and Dr. Shudi, the way we appreciate the Heart of Healing. When no one was coming, they came. I think that was huge, and so if we are now coming from the perspective that we should pull what over years we tried to get, somebody finally bringing one, that will be, although I think that's also part of why we've come to this kind of forum where our voices can be heard, our patients, representing our patients and where we come from. So hopefully, I think it can get better from it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for Jimmy for the great question. I think there's lots more to say about this. I would encourage you to maybe connect up with some of the colleagues here in the chat, some of the panel members, and perhaps continue those conversations. I particularly like, Jimmy, your thought about other media, perhaps moving images also becoming part of this this conversation. But I think we have to leave it at that for now. I'm already feeling a little bit guilty that as I pass back to you, Marcel, I leave you with very little time to give us an update. But I wanted to thank everybody who asked questions and of course all our panels who answered them. That's it from me for now, and I'll hand back to you, Marcel.
No problem and no guilt needed. Thank you for that wonderful facilitation. With just 2 minutes down, we've talked so much about the importance of imagery, the importance of capturing. And so we would be remiss to not capture this moment. So instead of having me in a spotlight, let's take my spotlight away and get an image of everybody. If you feel comfortable, please go off camera and let's get a screenshot of this community that we have here today. And so why don't we just all take a moment. Again, if you feel comfortable and you're able, please turn on your camera and we're going to get an image of everyone, all of us together here. So can change the view here to gallery. Okay, excellent. Look at all these wonderful people. Well, I have an image I'll take on my end. All right. And 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, and I have a whole nother page here. All right, hold on. And 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, thank you, everyone. So we just have about 30 seconds left. So in that 30 seconds, I think in place of rushing through findings, I'll just emphasize that unsurprisingly, we did find from the 18 people that we interviewed, there's a very, very strong emphasis that if the process of making a mural doesn't reflect what Dr. Marco Caporn called cultural heritage, the immediate cultural heritage that surrounds that healthcare setting, you really have a missed opportunity. So we'll share more soon about our findings, but thank you to all of our amazing panelists, and thank you, Kunle, for your leadership and bringing us all together. And I'll leave it in your good hands, Kunle. Thank you again.